Hi, welcome to Tour with Lisa. This is part 2 of Arlington Cemetery. In the first video, we discussed the history of Arlington Cemetery and how it came to be. And in this video, we're going to discuss the changing of the guard, the Tomb of the Unknowns, and then some of the questions that I get when I go to Arlington Cemetery. Now, you have to enter through security to get into the cemetery. And then you're going to climb up a very large hill. Don't let that scare you. You can take a leisurely walk going up. It's beautiful, especially during the springtime. You can stop at the John F. Kennedy Memorial. You can stop at the Arlington House. Or you could just take the trolley up if you'd like. So once you get to the top of the hill, you will see a beautiful amphitheater that was put there in the 1920s. And you will see what looks to be like a toy soldier pacing back and forth in front of a very large sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is the Tomb of the Unknown for World War I, and it was put there in 1921. Now, inlaid in front of that tomb, there are 3 other tombs. There's one for World War II, one for the Korean War, and one for the Vietnam War. However, the soldier that was in the tomb for the Vietnam War is no longer there. He was identified as Michael J. Blassie. His family was suspect that might be their son, so they did a DNA test, and he was disinterred and taken back to St. Louis and buried in the military cemetery that's there. Now, the large sarcophagus of the Unknown from World War I was put there in 1921, and shortly after 1926 they started guarding it during the day because people were being disrespectful. They were climbing on it, picnicking on top of it. So it was decided in 1937 there would be a sentinel guard in front of the tomb 24 hours a day. So since 1937, every second of every day, there has been a tomb guard in front of that tomb. Now, in 1948, the U.S. Army 3rd Regiment Old Guard took over, and they have been guarding it ever since. So, pretty amazing. They guard it through all kinds of weather. There has never, but since, if there was really, really bad weather or a hurricane or something, yes, they can leave their post if they're in their safety's in danger, but it has not happened and they have never left their post. So this sentinel is pacing back and forth. He'll walk 21 steps. He faces the tomb and he pauses for 21 seconds. He bows his head, puts the rifle over the other shoulder and walks back. Paces 21 steps, turns towards the tomb, same thing. This goes on back and forth. And he'll do this for 30 minutes during the spring, summer, and fall. And then during the winter months, he'll do it for an hour at a time. When the cemetery is closed at night, they can go as long as 2 hours. Now the changing happens. There'll be an inspector, the person that's being changed will walk out with the inspector, and then the inspector will inspect the soldier right in front of you, and that is what is the changing of the guard. And they do look like toy soldiers. They're inspecting their uniform, they're inspecting their gun, and if they are approved, then the next person takes his post, and it goes on back and forth, back and forth. Now, to become an honor guard, you have to be the elite of the elite. It is a very difficult position to seek. You have to be very physically fit. You have to learn a 7-page history of the cemetery. You have to be able to repeat it verbatim, so word for word. You have to be very diligent in your uniform. So these guys will spend at least 8 hours a day working on making sure their uniform is proper. Their shoes have to be shined just so. Every button has to be correct, shiny, and polished. You can't have a thread or a crease. You can't have anything that's off by 1/16 of an inch. So it's a very rigorous type of, what they have to go through. Now, most of the guys, The men have to be, I believe it's 5'8" to 6'4", somewhere in that height range, and of similar stature. People used to think that it had to be a 26-inch waist. That is no longer true. I'm not sure if it ever was true. We do have women that are honor guards. We've had 4 women do it, and they have to be at least of a height of 5'8". Now during their on-duty time, they live under the amphitheater, and when they're off duty, they can live on the base, they can live anywhere they want. And there was rumors that they couldn't drink or swear. That is not true. They can't do it while they're on duty, of course, but in their own time, they can drink and they can swear if they want to. So the honor guard usually serves about a year on duty. They have to have at least 9 months to earn the badge, and they could go as high as 2 years, but most likely it's going to be around a year or a little over a year. Now, some of the questions that I get as we're walking around Arlington Cemetery are, why are there stones on top of the tombstones? And that just goes back to an old Jewish tradition of leaving a stone to pay your respects. But you'll also sometimes see coins on top of the tombstones. And that has a kind of an interesting little legend that goes with it. It says if you're leaving a penny, you're paying your respect. If you leave a nickel, you were in boot camp with that soldier. If you leave a dime, that you were in the same company, maybe not necessarily the same platoon, but in the same company. And if you leave a quarter, that means that you were with a soldier when he passed away. Now, during the Vietnam War, there were so many burials happening here at Arlington Cemetery that a lot of the soldiers were coming to, pay their last respects to their fallen comrades, and they kind of had a different idea. They were leaving the coins as a nod to say, hey, I'm buying you a beer when we get to the next place, when I see you again. So the cemetery doesn't really appreciate having the coins placed on the tombs because they do have to go by and collect them. And of course, that money does go back into helping the cemetery, but it is a nuisance for them. There are over 400,000 bodies here. I don't really know the count. I've never heard an accurate count. That's just what I've heard since I started tour guiding. But there are 25 to 30 funerals happening every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturdays. So that's a lot of funerals. And the cemetery is running out of space. So the restrictions to be allowed to be buried at Arlington are getting much tighter. They do have a columbarium that you can be, your ashes can be buried there. There are over 600 acres to Arlington Cemetery, but as we're running out of room, there is no place to expand to grab more room. They recently acquired a little more acreage that is by the Air Force Memorial, but it's predicted that, within another 50, 60 years, there will not be any more room. So there are bodies from every single war buried at Arlington Cemetery. I know I told you that it became a cemetery during the Civil War, but there were bodies that were disinterred and brought to Arlington Cemetery from the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. There are many sites to see in Arlington Cemetery. There is the mast Friendly Ship Maine. There is the Challenger Memorial. There's John Glenn was recently buried there. There's Robert Todd Lincoln is buried there. There's so many famous people that are buried there. The requirements, though, you have to have served in the military or you have to have been a president or a high-ranking government official. So those are some of the questions I get coming to Arlington Cemetery. If you can think of something that you want to ask, put it in the comments below and we'll see if we can't find an answer for you. But please go to Arlington Cemetery and visit anytime this spring. I recommend the spring or the fall because in the summer it's so hot and you have a lot of walking to do, unless of course you take the trolley, but you really got to see it by walking. So thank you for watching Tour with Lisa, and I'll catch you on the next video. Goodbye.